The family history. My husband's mother died when he was 17. His father was having an affair while she was sick. The affair partner became his wife. My husband never forgave him and left before he turned 18 and before their oldest child could be born. It's been years of no contact. 3 months ago, my husband was told that his father, who he was estranged from, and his father's wife had passed away in an accident. Husband's father put him down as the guardian of their 2 young children in case anything happens. My husband had no idea his father had done this. He never actually met those children. He was estranged from his father by the time the older of the 2 was born. My husband told the person who called that he was unwilling to become their guardian. The person understood, and what ended up happening is my husband's aunt took the kids. This is his father's sister. She wants my husband to take them still. She's reached out countless times to convince him to meet the kids, form a relationship, and see if he could build up to wanting them. He has no interest in this. After my husband blocked her and stopped responding, she decided to show up at the house while I was working. She told me we needed to talk and told me I could decide we were taking them and I could be the person to make the first step. She told me that they were just as much my responsibility as my husband's and that they're orphan children and don't need the family history being the reason they never know their brother. I told the aunt I had no responsibility to raise these kids and I would not raise them if my husband wasn't interested. I told her if she doesn't want them, she should say so, but she shouldn't try to force them into a home where they're unwanted and unloved. I told her it was tragic for the kids, but they were not my children. She called me heartless and told me that as a woman, I should be ashamed to be married to someone who would discard flesh and blood children over the actions of adults. I made her leave. I had to block her on my work phone because she attempted to reach me to tell me again that I was this bad person. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Their dad was out of his mind putting your husband down as the guardian in case anything happened. If you're not talking and haven't in years, it follows that they're not going to want to take in kids they've never met. This right here. Dad might as well have left the kids with a stranger because that's what OP was to him at that point. Completely unacceptable. Why isn't she stepping up as a woman? If the aunt is so concerned, then she can raise them herself. She's saying that they're this guy's flesh and blood. Well, aren't they hers as well? I think she just doesn't want the responsibility. I feel for those kids. Yeah, this heartless woman who's actively trying to discard flesh and blood by shaming other people for doing the same is disgusting. Those poor kids. I'd better get her act together and be a good mom since she took them in. If she took them in hoping she could convince OP's husband to take them, then she's a hypocrite. This aunt is more than a bit pushy. Someone needs to let her know she's not in charge. Honestly, I would have served her with a restraining order. Your father-in-law was a huge idiot here, and his sister isn't much better. It sucks that the kids are being turned into pawns in this whole scenario, as they haven't done anything wrong. Seeking a relationship with your husband would have been one thing, and he would still be perfectly within the lines of decency to not even want that. But to try to force orphan children into the home of a total stranger that doesn't want them is garbage-tied behavior. Maybe contact the agency and say that you're concerned for the kids' welfare since she's so adamantly trying to get rid of the responsibility she chose. My mom was a great mother. I had a good childhood, especially considering how young she was and that my dad was a piece of crap. I really appreciate how she shielded me from all of that. My mom is married to my former boss, and while it sucks for me, I do believe she did her duty as a mother and deserves to be happy. I used to work for Brandon. This was one of those jobs where networking was everything. You really needed the boss to like you, and you had to present a certain image. I will admit I tried way too hard, and to put it lightly, Brandon did not like me. He was a condescending idiot, and my mom was aware as I vented to her about work. He wasn't outright abusive, but did laugh at me a lot and made a few comments that weren't cool. My mom and Brandon met at our wedding. Now, I don't believe in love at first sight, but they definitely had something there, and they got serious really fast. And I have to say, he makes her really happy, and she's never seemed truly happy before. I hate being around him. I wish this never happened, but I'm pleased for them. My wife thinks my mom is a bad mother for putting herself first. Recently, my very young son asked why we don't see my mom as much as my in-laws, about once a month versus once or twice a week. My wife said that while my in-laws were the best parents, my mom was bad because she married Brandon, who had not been nice to me, and we didn't spend much time with her because she was selfish. I was furious and told my son that that was not true. I said we don't spend time together because my mom has a busier life and because mother-in-law doesn't work, so they sometimes go over during the day. I said it was wrong of my wife to say that and that my mom was great. My wife told our son I was wrong and that a good mom would not have married someone like that. I snapped and told my son not to listen to his mother, and she just didn't like my mom. I said that women with adult kids should put themselves first, and maybe it isn't healthy how much we see mother-in-law, but my mom is a great person, and I won't hear anything more about it. When my son went to play, my wife confronted me and said I undermined her and acted like a mama's boy. She said I shouldn't have raised my voice. I didn't yell, but I did raise it, and that I shouldn't be confusing our son when what my mom did was objectively not okay. So, am I the idiot? No one is a winner here. You're both crappy for putting your child in the middle of an argument between you and your wife. Neither of you was actually talking to your son. You were indirectly being jerks to each other about an issue it seemed unresolved between the two of you. Keep your son out of this. It's only going to cause him a lot of issues in the future. Discuss your issues like adults. Don't use your son as a passive-aggressive tool. Agree. Everyone's the idiot here. Next time you two children want to fight through a third party, instead of talking to each other like adults, try using the dog instead of your impressionable kid as the prop. Both of you suck. Grow up. I can't get past wondering why your boss, who you didn't like and who didn't like you, was at your wedding. You really did try way too hard. You are the idiot. You have a weird fascination with not holding your mother to any accountability, so you can see others' faults except hers. Whatever else, a great mom would have not gravitated to a bully or allowed him to distance her from her child and grandchild. I have a tween daughter who recently had a birthday. She has a different dad from the rest of my children. Whenever one of my kids turns 12, I buy them their first phone, which is usually a cheap phone because I don't think a kid needs an expensive phone. She has been complaining recently and asking me to buy her a phone because all of her friends have one. I told her she had to wait as her siblings did. So imagine my surprise when today she came home from her dad's and had a phone with her, and not just a cheap phone. I don't know much about phones, but it looks expensive. I was furious, so I took her phone away and told her she was not getting it back until she turned 12. She started to cry and called her dad, who called me an idiot for taking the phone away. I told him he had no right to buy that for her, and he should have gotten a cheap phone for her on her 12th birthday, like the rest of her siblings. Am I the idiot for taking my daughter's phone away? Why can't her dad have his own rules and buy her a nice phone? Are you envious? Dad can certainly have his own rules at his place, but did you even talk to Dad about this rule of yours and see if he agreed? If so, he may have agreed to wait, but even if he didn't, you handled this situation extremely poorly. You are the idiot. Not the idiot. Compromise. Give her the phone back when she's going to her dad's and take it back when she returns to your care. This allows you your rules, and Dad can have his rules. You're both her parents, but sadly, there are different rules for each household. This would be considered theft. It was purchased by the father and given as a gift. The OP has no ownership over the phone. Also, it doesn't sound like these parents are co-parenting. They should discuss these decisions together. OP made a decision without consulting the father, and the same for the father. Everyone's the idiot here. And it sounds like y'all need a phone. Seriously, getting a cell phone for a kid is kind of a big deal. Parents need to set aside their differences and communicate with each other to benefit their children. The second that kid realizes you and your ex aren't communicating and that they can get you guys to override each other, you're done as effective parents. 110% done. You need to set aside your egos Sit down and have an adult discussion about this situation and how you'll handle situations like this moving forward. Together or separately, you need your kid to know you're a united front and that mommy said no, so I'll ask daddy crap doesn't play. My ex-husband and I divorced when our daughter, Teen, was 9. I got custody and he only had visitations. Nova was always a daddy's girl and hated being away from him. And when we got divorced, he was free to play the fun parent for her, so it got even worse. She did everything she could to make me let her live with her dad. She was rude and misbehaved until she was a young teen, and I told her I couldn't do this anymore. I asked her why she was acting like this, and she said she wanted me to let her live with her dad. So I told her she could live with her dad, but if she changed her mind, she could come back. She left and didn't even come to see me for 2 years. She called me a few weeks ago and said she wants to stay with me 1 or 2 weekends a month from now on. I told her I was glad and I was looking forward to it. Last weekend she came home. I told her she could sleep on the couch. She asked me why she couldn't stay in her bedroom. I told her that my boyfriend, who I live with, has 2 daughters and that bedroom is theirs now. The room is too small for 3 people, so she has to sleep on the couch. She called me an idiot and said that there was no way she'd sleep on the couch. She called her dad, who picked her up, in an hour, and she left. Later, she sent me a text and said since I didn't have a place for her in my home, she won't come back. She's acting very entitled because she left and didn't return for 2 years. She can't expect me to keep her room empty. I asked her to come home multiple times, but she refused. She wasn't even interested in spending time. I tried, but she'd always make excuses. I really want to be done with this family. Who doesn't try to see their daughter at any point in 2 years? Jesus, have you never heard of email? Your young teen skittered off and you just cut contact? No updates, no information, no questions? Does she even know you have a live-in partner? You're acting like she's an adult relative who didn't keep up. She's your teenage child. Who lets a teen decide anything and just goes with it? You are the idiot, but it's not really about the room. Disagree. The daughter treated her mother like crap for years so she could move out. OP acquiesced, and she moved out. The daughter showed no interest in coming back for 2 years. When she finally decided to, she assumed that everything would be as she left it, because reasons? Then she loses her mind at OP and says she never wanted her back and bounced. OP can and should have explained the living situation before the daughter came to visit, but I find it hard to call OP an idiot for making use of a room when other people now live in the house. So what's OP's excuse for inviting the daughter back and not disclosing that 2 other children had taken over the daughter's bedroom? You don't invite your literal child home and then surprise them with, "Hey, sorry you can't have your bedroom. I gave it to my boyfriend's kids." OP, you didn't need to keep her room vacant. But why didn't you discuss it with her before she arrived? Kids don't cut contact with a parent without reason for the most part. Agreed. You've made it so she can't come back. You took away her room and her bed. She can't expect everything to be as it was 2 years ago, but you can't reasonably expect her to ever visit you if she's staying on the couch either. You also knew that your daughter might come home one day, but there was nowhere in your home for her to return to. So you made it not her home anymore. Now she won't come back. You chose your stepdaughters over her. She won't forget this. I'm nearly adult female, the oldest of 4. My sisters are both special needs with serious health problems, and my brother has severe asthma that has made his life difficult. Because of all the medical complexities my siblings have, and because many doctors and therapies have been part of their lives for so long, we've never had a lot of money or many great opportunities. My parents take the help they can get, but a lot of stuff has been out of reach for us. We never did extracurricular activities because our parents couldn't afford them. We could only go on school field trips if there was a fund available, and only if it was for a few hours versus overnight stuff. As a result, we never go on vacations, and I missed out on a few opportunities over the years that came up. One was the chance to get photos I had taken for a class displayed at this gallery, where they showed talented youth from schools. My parents said we couldn't afford to go, and they couldn't leave the kids, so I had to turn it down, and my photos weren't displayed because I couldn't be there. The other was the chance to go on vacation with my best friend's family, who had offered to pay for everything. My parents told me I was needed at home, and it was too much money for my friend's family to pay. We disagreed about me getting a job when I started working last year. They didn't love it, but I wanted to have money. I wanted to be able to afford things and do stuff without being told it wasn't in the family budget. Now my brother's been asked to represent his grade at a science fair thing several hours away. My parents want to take him for the 2-day thing, which would mean 2 overnights if they get back late, or 3 if they come back the next morning. I had already made plans and bought tickets to this event that was happening over that weekend. My friends and I are going. However, my parents want me to cancel and stay home with my sisters. They want me to sacrifice this for my brother. He begged me. He told me how much it means to him. But I don't want to. I've always had to make the most sacrifices as the oldest. Now I'm in a position where I can do stuff for fun with my own money, and I'm being asked to sacrifice for my brother. Also for my parents, because they want to use this as a break, when they didn't make the same effort for me when I had an opportunity presented. I said no, and they were all mad at me, my brother especially. He told me I was the only reason he would not be able to go. He told me I should care about him not missing stuff the way I had to, and that it would make me a better sister. My parents told me it would have been nice for them to get a break and put a smile on my brother's face, but apparently I am twisted with bitterness. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Tell your parents one of them can go with him, and the other parent will look after the other 2 kids. Tell your brother and parents that they're not letting him go. A teen doesn't need 2 parents to take him, and the 2 young siblings only need 1 parent to look after them. Tell your parents if they want a one-night break to book it in advance with you. They need to check your plans and see if it's workable for you. Your brother is innocent in this, as are you. Spin it on them, and don't let them put the blame and focus of his hate on you. Don't compare to yourself. That will always be thrown back at you, and they will say that you're jealous. You can't win with that line. Right? It seems like such an obvious solution. OP, you're not responsible for your siblings. You're their sibling, not their parent. You're a child, not a free caregiver. It was already wrong for them to not let you go on vacation with your best friend's family because you're needed at home. Go on your trip with your friends and get out of that house ASAP when you turn 18. And don't let them guilt you into becoming caregivers of your siblings when they get old.